not my eyes, sir. You've never used them before.
Fashion has the power to shape people's minds. We're at NuNuNu trying to shape the future of all human beings by saying, find your own individuality.
We bring a new order as a concept.
By now, I'm sure everyone has seen the commercial for the new clothing line from Celine Dion, who's partnered with a company called NuNuNu. I'm a bit late out of the gate on this, but I wanted to throw my hat in the ring anyway. The internet is on fire talking about this thing, and I saw some stuff that needs to be added to this conversation. You guys need to see this, so let's get right into it. In the promo video, Celine, who's portrayed as Glinda the Good Doctor in her fashionable glitter gown, looking so fabulous here, is bringing healing magic to the babies. The script begins with how our children really are not our children, attempting to detach them from the construct of traditional family. They don't belong to their parents or family or their heritage or culture. The message Glinda, the gender goddess, is bringing here is that children belong to the world, the unbuilt future, for which they plan to build right here and now with fashion. That children belong to the system, the one they are making with brand new rules and brand new standards. The old way is sick and needs healing, you see, so she's got her medical bag with the Red Cross medical symbol, depicted here in white, probably symbolizing purity. And I'll get more into this symbol here in a bit. Celine enters the hospital now wearing her black power suit. No more glitter gown, you guys, because now she's here to take care of business. They have males on the left denoted by night and the moon and darkness, females on the right denoted by day and the sun and light, an important detail here. She then spews her black magic nano dust everywhere, and suddenly the room converts into this black and white, colorless, generic environment with the white cross symbol of purity carefully placed above both sides of the room and floating all through the air, and an entire generation of newborns become these generic, blank slate, cookie-cutter, non-binary entities that have zero identifying attributes. They are now voided constructs, a blank slate for which they can decide to construct themselves however they want with zero added input. You're not allowed to give them any data at all, no input. Just hurl them into the world and let them figure it out for themselves with only the help of the creepy fashion gods. That's neat. A little detail I noticed besides the prison uniforms this line of clothing is offering our children. That's right, I said it. Our children, God's children. It's the strange, creepy dolls placed in some of the isolettes, and I'll get back to that. Then the cops enter the room. Somebody's called the fuzz. Somebody's called the authorities. And she has this weird inner dialogue about how she's a megastar, a celebrity goddess who can't go to jail. There's separate rules for the elite, special rules for the world's gods and goddesses. Didn't you know that? So she starts running. They overtake her, and they begin to take her away, but not without giving a shout out to another super diva, high priestess of the New World Order, Beyonce. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's really this blatant now. This is the world we're living in. At the website, you see Celine flanked by her new partners, housed inside the NuNuNu brand's symbol, and they offer their mission statement. Celine NuNuNu unites two forces by one voice. Fashion has the power to shape people's minds, inspire your children to be free, and find their own individuality through clothes. So they're telling you right here what they're doing. They're attempting to shape people's minds, particularly children's minds. Celine NuNuNu is a joint partnership between iconic performer Celine Dion and co-founders and designers of the kids' fashion brand NuNuNu, Iris Adler and Tally Milchberg. Together, these fierce female forces have created a new children's clothing brand that breeds equality and freedom of spirit, serving as a platform for a new humanistic education. Celine NuNuNu liberates children from the traditional roles of boy-girl and enables younger people to grow on values of equality with the freedom to strengthen their own power of personality based on mutual respect. The brand flows on the axis between the values of education and empowering dialogue. We believe that an educational experience is possible through children's clothes because fashion builds concepts deep within our minds and changes thought patterns. The dialogue between clothes and creativity, art, amplifies the discussion about a humanistic education. A humanistic education, which is gender-free, strengthens the power of personality, and gives the spirit space to grow. This is an education that fashion can instill based on the concept of equality and respect for humankind. If you scroll down a bit, you'll find this quote. "Children must be taught how to think, not what to think." Margaret Mead. When I saw this, I stopped dead in my tracks. Trust me when I say there is nothing about the thoughts of Margaret Mead that you want anywhere near your children's brains. Margaret Mead was an anthropologist from Columbia University. Columbia University is basically the headquarters for cultural Marxism and the think tank for the counterculture movement of the 60s. The counterculture movement was not some natural phenomenon. It was a deliberate political operation bent on destroying Western civilization from within the culture. Through radical undermining of civilized society and the tearing down of all established standards and norms, they believed they could overturn Western culture completely and the Judeo-Christian values it was founded upon, and flip it over to communism through the liberal arts in academia and politics, through Hollywood and film, through the modern art movement, through music and the media. Margaret Mead played a role in that steaming cesspool of toxic Antichrist filth known as the counterculture movement. She was a student of Franz Boas, another radical liberal communist intellectual from Columbia University. They spent their academic careers and their parents' wealth studying primitive cultures, in this case, tribal cultures, to see if their socialist theories were true. To a radical liberal communist intellectual, man is not a product of nature, they are a product of society, of mind consciousness. Cultural determinism is the idea that every aspect of human identity and everything we value is a product of society alone. Ants behave like ants because they live in an anthill, not because they are biologically an ant with built-in purpose. I can't spend video time going into all of this because it would turn into a 3-hour dissertation. I'll sum it up this way. Margaret Mead, along with her teacher and mentor Franz Boas, were radical liberal communists, whose contemporaries included members of the Theosophical Society and the early founders of the Frankfurt School of Cultural Marxism, and devoted their work to the counterculture movement of the 60s, of which they believed would bring about their Antichrist communist New World Order. She's considered a laughingstock in the anthropology community, and by the people she studied, too. Mostly because she wrote this book about an 8-month stay in Samoa where she went there to study their culture and ended up forcing her own skewed ideas into her observations. In typical radical liberal fashion, she falsified her account, insisting that her ideas about unrestrained free sexuality, which included bisexuality and other perversions, along with her refusal to align human behavior with nature and biology, and, well, the fact that the majority of the world, even in tribal communities, aren't a bunch of rebellious, deviant perverts, her book was full of factual errors and biased opinions, a laughable work of fiction, and not one credible anthropologist takes her work seriously. On their homepage, they're throwing the New World Order concept in our face right at the gate. Now, these photos are going to disturb, so if you haven't seen them yet, be prepared. These precious children are being branded with satanic symbols and imagery, death cult imagery, and other very disturbing elements that come from the darkest end of the Luciferian spectrum. These people come from the cult of the Black Sun, the darkest realm of Luciferianism, the darkest and most destructive sect of Satanism. And they maintain the tiniest bit of subtlety here, but they're also making some bold statements. So let's take a look at a few of these photos. In their Instagram photo gallery, you see their lookbook showcasing their line. Here's one that looks very Kubrick-esque, eyes wide shut, masked ball mansion parties. We have Cernunnos, the horned god representing Lucifer, often depicted as the stag. I wonder if the name NuNuNu is a play on the name Cernunnos. Nu is the 13th letter of the Greek alphabet. Nu is also the 13th star in the constellation Nu Draconis, of which Nu is one of the eyes of the dragon. Nun is the 14th letter in the alphabets of the Semitic languages, which includes Phoenician, Hebrew, Aramaic, and Arabic. It's thought to derive from the ancient Egyptian hieroglyph of a snake. What's interesting is that the Hebrew word for snake or serpent, which is nakash, begins with Nun. In Aramaic, the word for snake is also Nun. The word nakash, used in Genesis for serpent, does not describe a scaly reptile that crawls on his belly. The word nakash means to hiss, as in to whisper a magic spell, or the whispering of soothsayers, to divine, to enchant, or to diligently observe. We have some gender-bending looks here, young boys in dresses, we have skull and bones, with this disturbing symbol on the ball cap with the eyes crossed out. Crossed out eyes typically symbolizes unconsciousness or death. Here is the all-seeing eye representing Lucifer, with 3 6 on the knees, 3 6s, the number of the beast. On the knees as if to say, bow down to your knees to the beast. We have pyramids, a lot of Masonic black and white stripes, almost like prison stripes, like they're putting prison clothes on our children. Pentagrams and devil horns representing the Baphomet. The Braille pattern, this is interesting. In their own words, a play on our current obsession with different forms of communication. Think of it as polka dots with a purpose. These people communicate through symbols, and here's proof right here. Numbers. Humans are simply a number. Children are simply a number. No human value in the communist technocratic beast world system. You're just a number. You're one of many meaningless numbers. Lots of 3 and 6, branding our children, God's children, with the number of the beast, the mark of the beast. Here's a child in the Arch of Hysteria, a favorite of a certain man's art collection who shall remain nameless at this time. The Arch of Hysteria, coveted by these Satanist monsters as they torture and traumatize their victims until their minds are broken. A control freak in their world doesn't represent a controlling person who's in charge. Rather, it represents a controlled person who enjoys being controlled. Then we have superheroes and capes representing the Titans, the demigods, people with superpowers, the evolved superhuman. Oh, look at this one. Kind of reminds me of this. The A and Z, the beginning and end, a blasphemous twist on Alpha and Omega. Also to say the end is also a beginning. The Z representing the Hebrew letter Zayin, meaning serpent. It can also mean sword or weapon. It can mean air, as in the god of the air. In Kabbalah, it is the lightning bolt, the symbol for Lucifer. It can also represent the power of the feminine. It's used also by Lars von Trier in his film company's logo, another Black Sun Satanist. I know this because I just talked about this in my last video, which includes clips from this disturbing homemade film he made when he was 14 years old. Here's a very small clip from that film. What 14-year-old dreams up content like this? Which bears a striking resemblance to this, taken from the NuNuNu Instagram page. They're all from one big cult, you guys, the cult of the Black Sun. Here's one showing the 666 hand sign over the eyes as if to say, see the world through the eyes of the beast. The skull robot, which was designed by an artist that they are featuring here as part of their design team, and I'll get to more about the artist here in a bit, depicts the concept, roughly interpreted, dead humanity plus machines. The skull robot symbolizes both the death cult and the futurist transhumanist movement. It's a symbol that represents the death of the human era, which if you watch some of my other videos, you will realize they have a plan to literally end humanity by merging human biology with the machine, within 5 to 10 years, by the way, and transform humanity into these robot-like beings that merge with their centralized AI system, their artificial intelligence, to become part of the Hive Collective. No more individuality, no more independent thought or personal identity. The skull robot is the epitome of the end of humanity and the death cult's pledge to merge man with machine, to create a new species of robot humans that will serve in the hive like little like-minded worker bees, serve in the collective of the New World Order. The end. It is this insane, you simply cannot make this up. Here they list this as Vitruvian Girl, a take from Da Vinci's drawing of a man in perfect proportion. Da Vinci, who is also a Luciferian, the square is masculine and the circle feminine, the square and the circle being the spiritual representation of the perfect balance between masculinity and femininity. Da Vinci's Vitruvian man symbolizes spiritual perfection achieved when the masculine and feminine are brought together in harmony as one. This is a deeply satanic idea. This right here with the adult-sized hand on an infant, I can't even talk about it. I can't go here. We're just going to move along. The symbol they use for their brand, the white cross, could be a play on the X, but seems more to me a manipulation of the red cross symbol, which has a medical connotation. The red cross was intended to be a neutral international symbol of humanitarianism. The X symbol is a Masonic sign of Osiris, the Egyptian sun god. It's an esoteric symbol for the sun, for knowledge, for transformation and change. The Chaldean Babylonian sky god or sun deity, which carried with it a sexual connotation. Luciferians take it to mean Lucifer himself, who is a solar god, but use the X when a sexual connection is to be implied, as in X-rated. Which brings us to the Black Sun. This right here tells us everything we need to know about the specifics of who and what these people are and what they believe. This is a very dark symbol representing, well, here, listen to this.
Last aspect of occultism I want to touch on is dark occultism. I'm not going to belabor this too long. I just want to really talk about who are these people that I refer to as the dark occultists. You can call them a million different names, folks. Doesn't matter what you call them. You can call them sorcerers. You can call them dark Luciferians, those who have the light and use it for dark purposes. They are Satanists, okay? They are Setians. They are the Klipotic Kabbalists. Klipoth is the region below the tree of life that is the hell world in the Kabbalistic tradition, that is the inversion of all the true teachings of Kabbalah, of the true moral lessons of the true tradition, esoteric tradition of Kabbalah. If you descend into the Klipotic realms, it's the wastelands, the lands of the spent and corrupted souls that are simply husks, that used to be souls and spirits that are just like, withered out husks, the wastelands, in other words. That's Klipotic Kabbalah. They are the dark masons of the world. They are the dark Atonists. Aton was a variation of the sun or the light in the ancient Cometian tradition. Ultimately, it's all one cult, folks. It's the cult of the black sun. You could call them by any name you want, but they are a dark solar cult. Okay? When I say the dark sun, why the black or the dark sun? The sun represents light. It represents knowledge. It represents empowerment. It represents life. The antithesis of that, the total polar inversion of that, is it's still a form of light. It's still the sun, but it has darkness within it. So it's knowledge being used for all the wrong reasons. Knowledge being used to control, not enlighten, not uplift. Knowledge being used to put people in a prison. Knowledge being used to being used as a power differential over people who are still in a level of ignorance. So you're blinding people with that light, and you're enslaving them with it, with that knowledge. That's what these people are. Okay? If you don't even want to look at it in esoteric terms, they're people with the knowledge of how the self works, meaning deep psychology. Very ancient, deep knowledge of psychology, combined with people who know about how the laws of nature function, which is very deep, hidden science. That's it. There are the two sciences that are at work. The physical sciences combined with psychology. And then you put the understanding of how moral law functions into there, which they know as well, and rebel against because they want to be gods on earth, and they want to conquer the natural law consequences or evade them to the longest amount of time that they possibly can. They're all the same cult. It doesn't make a difference who we're talking about here. You could be talking about Satanists, Setians, the worshippers of the Great Owl at Bohemian Grove, the Skull and Bones Order of Death, the cult of the Black Sun that came out of the Nazi and SS party of Germany. All right, in the modern day, they're top-level international bankers, top-level political figures, top-level financiers, high-level religionists, high-level members of royalty, so-called royal families, judiciary, military, high-level military, people involved at highest levels of media, highest levels of medicine, highest levels of education, secret societies and fraternal orders, think tanks, intelligence agencies, you name it. This is where the highest concentration of dark occultists are at. This is who they are. This is how they operate in the world. These are the institutions who determine how people's lives will be run, because we let them. And at the top level of every one of these institutions, you're going to find the cult of the Black Sun operating.